lost to ignorance and confusion, three men arose from humble beginnings with a message of wisdom and hope for their troubled times. Three men who would eventually change the very face of humanity. But they didn't expect the Spanish Inquisition. So, here are some other guys.
It's Song Talk Radio with Bruce, Neil, and Phil.
Good evening and welcome back to the show, folks. Of course, this is the show with songwriters talking to other songwriters all about the craft of songwriting. This is episode 260, and we're glad you can be joining us.
And what's the show called, Phil?
This show is called Song Talk Radio.
Bingo.
Thank you.
Oh. Yes, that's what it's called. That's what we're calling it these days.
Oh, branding.
This is the special show coming up.
It's coming.
Yes, it's coming. We're already on tangents, and we've just started.
Oh, we're always on tangents.
So the idea from the show, folks, is that we share tips and tools and things we figured out with the goal of, at the end of it, trying to write better songs, that we're all going to become better songwriters. Tonight I'll be your host. My name is Phil Emery, and joining me, as always, are the very dedicated members of the Song Talk Radio Action Team. Mr. Neil Modi, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I thought at the end of all this we're supposed to succeed at writing better songs.
Ah, okay, well, that's true. Well, then we shall succeed.
Yeah.
Good to have a goal.
Try not. Do.
Yoda.
Or do not.
Neil Yoda.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Yoda.
Love
Yes.
his albums.
And to my right is Mr. Bruce Harrod.
Had a great day, beautiful sunshine, helped my clients, and it was a good day.
That's very good.
Beautiful day.
On the tech board, we have Mrs. Linda Lavender.
I like the title Ms.
Ms. Lavender.
Ms. Lavender is perfect.
And of course, keeping a watchful eye on the social media streams is Vanessa Vreeland.
Can't get off her phone.
Yes. During the show, why don't you, if you have any comments or questions, why don't you send us a tweet? Do that to @SongTalkRadio on Twitter, or send us an email at feedback@songtalk.ca. That is feedback@songtalk.ca, and we'll share them with the audience in real time. You can be famous just like us. And you can always stop by the website songtalk.ca to find out how you can be a guest. And speaking of guests, it's the Blair Packham Show. Woo!
Yeah.
Blair Packham is a longtime friend of the show and master songwriter. He's a past frontman for the Jitters, one of the main brains behind the Song Studio Songwriters Camp, which is a brilliant thing. Happens every summer here in Toronto. Yep. Producer, master songwriter, and teaches songwriting at
Seneca College.
That's correct. Which is a real cool job. So how are things at Song Studio?
Things are good. We've already got 20 people signed up. We have capacity for about 50, so we're about almost halfway there. Plus, we have some comps who are actually gifted. I hate to use that word as a verb, but they were given. See, it's the same number of syllables, people. You can just say given instead of gifted. They were given. Doesn't save any time to say gifted.
You're wasting a lot of time explaining it.
I know,
it does take time.
I'm trying to make a point. Okay?
Make your
We
point.
only have an hour show play.
They were given the tuition by other people at Song Studio. They were actually
That
given.
is
Wow,
really
that's
So
nice.
we have 4 people who have been given, whose tuition has been paid.
Wow. And when does it start again?
It starts. It's July 20th to 26th at the Royal Conservatory.
Is there still an early bird price going on right now?
Early-ish bird. It's not
Early-ish
in
bird?
September. It was really early and low, but now
wow.
it's getting up there. By the time it hits July, it'll be about $1,000 for the week.
Okay.
But it's
Yeah.
7 full days and nights.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
Yeah.
I went a couple summers ago.
You did?
It was great, yeah, and I got to sing with the Bare Naked Lady guy.
Yeah, with Stevie Page.
Steve Page, he taught me. So you get really incredibly talented instructors, not just Blair, but he hires people who are also incredibly talented.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Those
a
are
great
my-
time.
Who's coming this year? Do you got announced it?
Tom
yet?
Wilson is coming, and Barbara Lika. Those are the 2 people I have confirmed. But I actually have some of the other people are kind of amazing. I'm not going to mention them because they're not confirmed yet. Barbara Lika, though, is an incredible songwriter who is known for her work in jazz. She's Juno nominated, but not so much for her songwriting, which is really special and kind of spectacular. And if you haven't had her for a guest on this show, you really should.
We would love to. Well,
She's
let's
funny
reach out to her.
She's
charming
Juno
and-
nominated as
and-
a performer?
As a jazz singer. She's
Wow.
a beautiful
What's
jazz
her
singer.
name, Lika?
Lika. Barbara, Lica. Lika.
Okay, well, I'll have to do it.
To remember her name, you just merely quote The Singing Nun. Do you remember The Singing Nun? Singing Nun had a huge worldwide hit in
I
the
rem-
60s.
yes.
Dominic.
One hit.
Oh.
But I sing it, Barbara Lika, Lika, Lika. Yeah.
Yes, that's just some of the fine quality humor you get here on Song Talk Radio every week.
And at Song Studio, the laughs just roll through the
They
whole week.
just keep on coming.
So let's talk about basically getting your songs completed from ideas into completion. So we're
Yeah.
looking at songs that are incomplete.
Yeah.
So you're going to be bringing some stuff.
Yeah,
with
I
you.
have some songs that are sort of in idea form, but I have to say, by the time I start sort of writing them down, or in this case, entering them into my iPad, they start to take on a shape pretty early.
Right.
So I have scraps of paper, and I have napkins, and I have notebooks, lots of notebooks. Of just a word that sparks something in my brain.
So I want to talk about the very
Okay.
early aspects of the songwriting, because I think we all do this. Like, I'm sitting at a piano waiting for the water to boil, and I come up with this like little musical thing on the piano, and it's not going to be a song. It was little things, but so we come up with these little bits of ideas.
Yes.
So how are you capturing these little bits of ideas?
Well, for me, two ways. I have an iPad, and I have a program called On Song, and it's really meant
On Song?
On Song, yeah, and it's meant as a set list lyric aid. So you're like right now, as you can see, I have it mounted to this mic stand on a little stand, and it's meant to have the songs at my fingertips, so that if I want to play a different song and I can't remember the words, or it's a new song or something like that,
Right.
I just go to it and I start playing. But what I use it for is a lot of writing now. It's sort of songwriting central for me, in the sense that if this iPad got lost, I'd be in trouble for a few days, because I'd go buy another and I'd have it backed
Yeah,
up.
that's
But
right, yeah.
You
but
got
it would be a
backed up
drag.
on the cloud, right?
Yeah. This program automatically backs up, which
Thank
is great.
God.
Yes, and so I have a bunch of songs in progress. I have 47 songs in progress, some of which date back literally to the 80s.
It's good to know someone else has old stuff.
Yeah,
written around,
I have no problem if it's an idea that still excites me when I look at it. It's just that I haven't figured out the puzzle yet. That's all. It doesn't mean it's bad. And there are people who think, well, if you can't finish it all in one go, it must be bad. I don't feel that.
Yeah,
at
I
all.
don't
Do
think
you ever purge?
So, I never get rid of anything. I will abandon things
What does your
sort of
apartment
slowly.
look like?
Oh, I purge
Oh,
stuff.
okay.
Yeah. But songwriting-wise, I never do. But I entered into this thing two different things that aren't songs. I put a 1 so that it would come up at the top of the list, and then I wrote titles. 1 bullet titles, and then 2 bullet bites or bits. And so titles, I often write from. I don't do what you just described, sitting down at a piano or with a guitar and write music. I generally never do that.
Really?
Because the words
Okay.
are very important to me, and I want the words to be. I want them to be exciting to me and sort of carry me forward in my imagination, and that doesn't happen if I'm writing to a pre-existing bit of music. For me,
Oh,
I mean,
interesting.
it has happened occasionally, but it's really hard.
That's the way
find
I
it
do
very
it too.
difficult.
But
Do
a
you?
lot of musicians who are not lyricists primarily, they're
Yeah.
musicians who want to write songs. They always start with an instrument because it gets the feel for them.
Yes, and
And I understand that.
Yeah, and then they may come up with great lyrics,
Or they get a lyricist.
or they get a lyricist,
Yeah.
or they may come up with lyrics that aren't so great, and then they come to me and they say, I don't know, how do you write words that are like meaningful like that? And I say, well, I start with the words, and they're like, oh, I could never do that.
Yeah.
And of course, some
Yeah,
of
but
these.
you get some work out of it, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well, we'll have
we've
strengths,
also
right?
we've
Yeah.
also heard that some musicians will start with the music and it's not just setting the mood; it's actually inspiring the lyric, right?
It inspires
yeah.
the lyric, the song.
Yeah,
the
like
tune.
we've had
Yeah,
people on the
of
show
course.
say that, right?
The mood of it.
It sets the mood, it sets the tone of the song. It's like, okay, well, this is going to be something sad, and then they go to something sad for
Yep.
a title or for a lyric or whatever, right?
Well, I mean, to be completely honest, my best songs, the songs I feel strongest about, the lyric and the melody come together at the same time, just not the whole thing. Just the hook or the chorus or whatever, like some part of it will come, and then I have to sort of fill in the rest. But like the Jitters song, Last of the Red Hot Fools, which was on the radio in the 80s,
Great song.
that song came to me like the whole chorus. I was vacuuming. I was at somebody's house, and I was vacuuming, I guess, in the tempo of that song, which is like I've been a fool, played it dumb. I should have played it smart. Used my head, but not my heart. I guess I was vacuuming quickly. I must have been crazy, played it hot. I should have played it cool. And now I'm just the last of the red hot fools. And that came all together like that.
Lyrics and
Amazing.
Lyrics and just as
Yeah.
I was vacuuming, and then I went over and wrote it down.
Do you often
But-
clean other people's
so-
homes?
Yeah.
No, I was
Down on your luck?
house sitting and I had spilled something. So I just felt like that's not right
Yeah.
to leave that box of cereal or whatever on the floor.
Yes.
You know.
Very nice of you.
Yeah.
That's a real
Yeah.
gift when that happens, though,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
kind of like delivered to you somehow.
Though here, if I go to my bits here, I've got the iPad set up here, and I go to the bits, and if I look at something here, that's I'm looking for a phrase now. Of course, I can't find it, and we're on the radio.
Can you play a bit with the guitar?
Well, here, this is just 4 lines.
Okay.
And it's in my head, and I like it, and I want to finish it someday, but I'm
Right.
not sure quite how. Like Patrick. No, it's way too high. like Patrick McGowan, chased by that balloon. I am not a number. I'm a free man. And that's all I got.
Oh.
So it's a reference, in case you didn't get it, to
To
the
The
show
Prisoner.
The Prisoner.
Yeah.
Patrick
Oh, okay.
McGowan was the star, and there was this big white balloon that kept him on the island.
Right, kept
and
chasing
I
him
rhymed
around.
McGowan with
Yeah.
balloon.
Balloonin'.
Yeah.
Nice.
And that is
So-
something in itself.
Yeah, exactly. So, and so everything, many of these have a melody already attached.
All right.
Right, because I hear, like, many of these already have a melody attached. People are thinking that was an edit, but it's not. I'm repeating that. Many of these have a melody because there's a rhythm implied. Many of these have a melody already attached. Right? Like, there's already something there.
You can't do
Yeah.
the rhythm without the melody, in other words.
Well,
You can't go, many, but...
I can, but then
that's
I'd be a
poetry.
rapper.
Yeah, that's poetry.
Yeah,
a
yeah,
rap.
or-
and I
So,
don't believe me. I
but
don't
you're
wanna
not.
do it. I don't.
No, you're
shouldn't
keeping
be a
all the
rapper.
melodies
No.
in your head.
Yeah, they're
Right,
suggested
yeah,
by the
okay.
lyrics, and they
Yeah.
change a
And
little
they,
bit.
they mutate a
you
little
know.
bit. So the app doesn't let you record a little bit.
It doesn't. I then use like voice memo or whatever
Okay.
for that.
There is an app that you might want to look at that I've actually been working with
Music
quite
memos?
a bit.
Oh.
No, it's called. What's it called? It's Rhyme Genie and
Tunesmith?
song and Tunesmith.
Oh,
And it's really good. They've got contacts, and then you can put like the people who played on the records, and then it has like a lyric.
oh,
builder.
is that ever good?
It's good. And
Oh.
it works on the iPad and iOS and desktop as well.
Oh, I should look that up for
Yeah,
sure.
and they sync.
I
It's
did
really nice.
download music memos, which apparently was old news. Everybody else knew about it. I didn't
Yeah.
know, but do you know it?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty cool actually.
Yeah, I mean, it adds bass and drums, for instance, too.
nice.
Have
Have you heard that?
Yeah, that worked. Yeah, we did.
So, yeah.
Maybe you could have a prize on Song Studio of Tunesmith or something.
Yeah.
1 year subscription to Tunesmith.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Best,
So,
best recording. Best.
Right. So, okay. So you're just keeping. So you're basically just keeping lists of your titles.
yeah, well, okay. So
And
the way
bits.
I used to write, titles and bits, and the way I used to write songs
kibbles and
was
bits.
was always titles. Always
Right.
starting with a title, and that's a real Nashville way of doing things.
Yeah.
And so I have a whole bunch of people. By the way, you can't copyright a title. So if I wanted to call a song "Gone with the Wind," because that's it's already a famous movie, it might be ill-advised, but it's not illegal.
Right. Right.
And they
I'm
can't sue you
allowed
for
to
that.
do that.
Well,
Yeah,
that-
I could call it Star Wars if I
yeah.
want.
But have you ever Googled a song you want to hear on Spotify and 6 others come
Yeah.
up with the
Yeah.
same title?
Yeah.
But
Now,
they're not the same song.
I
They're
tend
not
to
covers.
avoid that. I like to have titles that are different from other people. But what I'm getting at is if I start listing these off for my title thing, go ahead, folks, steal them.
Yeah. It won't matter.
It was not going to come out. The
Assuming
song's
they're
not going to come out the same. So
That can
give,
be a
us
fun.
give us a few examples.
okay.
I was just going to say before we started,
Yeah.
a fun thing you can do if you have a bunch of songwriters is actually
Yes.
come up with a title and then have everyone write to that title.
Go to their
Yeah.
respective
And see what they do
corners.
with it.
and-
Linda
Yeah.
does that with the Toronto
Yeah.
Songwriters Group, right?
Yeah.
TSA or
Yeah, we've done that as an exercise before.
It's a pretty cool exercise. Yeah.
microphone.
Too late.
Yeah, or whatever.
So
give us a few
Well,
titles.
here's a few. I'm not going to play anything with them. Never said I was perfect. I don't know how well that sings. Did I make the whole thing up? These are just ideas where I think, oh, that could be a song,
Right.
And
Yeah.
you keep on talking, but my mind's made up. You know, I hear that as a rock and roll song.
Yeah.
You keep on talking, but my mind's made up. You know, like that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Bad Day at Bruce's Cove. Don't know where Bruce's Cove is. Don't say anything dirty now, Bruce.
I was thinking of the Bruce Peninsula.
Probably,
Yeah, there's probably a cove
yeah.
up there.
I'm no
Cove's
good
a
at
little easier to sing, probably.
I'm no good at goodbyes. Here's one that I don't know why. There are two towns somewhere in Ohio. I just drove back from Nashville and I was driving, and these two towns. One was like I can't even remember, but anyway, how I read it was Lucky Hoskins, and I thought, oh, there's the hero of my song, Lucky
Right.
Hoskins.
Oh, cool.
And so I wrote that down, and I thought I'm going to tell a story about a guy named Lucky Hoskins. Now I may never ever get to the song, right? It goes on and on. You know.
Do you ever just choose one at random, just as a bit of an exercise, and start singing and see where it goes?
Yeah, sometimes, but usually, like it has to be. Usually what I do is I go through it and I'm like, okay, what's exciting me today? You know, The Cat and the Canary. Right, looking at it right now, I'm like, oh, I should write that. You know, so
Well,
if I have that feeling,
so if you pick one of these titles,
Yeah.
that excites
the next
you, what's
step?
the next step then?
well, then I sing it, The Cat
Yeah.
and the Canary, and then I decide. Is it going to open the song like will it be the opening words of the verse, or will it be the payoff in the chorus? Just from the way it feels. Like The Cat and the Canary doesn't sound like a landing phrase. And it's all feel. Like I'm not sitting there thinking, well, I used my last title as a opening line, so I cannot do that this time. It's never that. It's just the way it feels.
But you're also not thinking about what that title or that phrase may mean in terms of a.
I may be, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The Cat and the Canary, I might think about what does that mean? Is it a metaphor for a relationship? Is the woman in the relationship the cat and I'm the canary, or something like that? You know,
Right.
for instance, that would be a pretty obvious way of approaching that one. But that kind of thing.
Right.
You know, I will think about it. I'm trying to see if there's anything here.
It's interesting. Some people have said, of the recent Morrissey stuff, that he has great titles, but he forgets to write the songs. Because he has great titles.
That could be true.
Like
yeah.
Stop Me If
Yeah.
You've Heard This One Before. Or
You're a lyricist and an accomplished lyricist. Do you ever improvise on the spot a whole song just with some friends or something? Because I've tried that myself. It's kind of fun.
I've tried it. It's hard, and I find it's challenging because I like to be really meticulous about things. So I find it's really hard, and then I find it kind of embarrassing.
Right. I just find it as a challenge because I don't mind if I make a mistake, because then it's even funnier.
Yeah.
Right? As a performance. It's a bit of a parlor trick.
Yeah.
But
no, I think I should. I think it'd be a good exercise for me.
we'll do it sometime.
Okay.
It's fun.
And then, like
All right.
most things, it probably takes practice. The more you do it, the
Yeah,
quote
but
unquote better you'll get at it. Maybe?
Lyricists, once they have a chord progression going, lyricists generally can, as long as the song isn't too fast,
Yeah.
you have time as you're singing to make up the next line and even the rhyme sometimes.
Right.
well, you can
Yes,
actually,
yes.
if you ever watch Whose Line Is It Anyway,
Yeah.
that Wayne Brady
Oh
is
yeah.
a master at that.
Oh,
Yeah,
he really
he's
is.
just-
He
he's
really
fantastic.
is. Yeah. Here's a title that I've had kicking around literally since the 70s, probably. No, the early 80s. And I hear it as a country song. The First 100 Years of My Marriage.
Oh wow.
The first 100 years of my marriage went by kind of fast, but things really slowed down after that.
Yeah.
And so it's a sideways sort of thing. Look at marriage. you know.
Cool.
So you don't actually start doing anything musical until you've sung the main line for a bit.
Ideally, I do in my head instantly,
Okay.
and then I sit down with the guitar. But if I sit with a guitar, here's my problem: I will start going. I'll start playing.
Oh, that one's been done.
Yeah, I'll start just playing riffs,
Yeah.
things that I know. I'll start playing Bob Dylan songs or whatever. So if I stay away from the guitar and I do it while I'm driving, for instance, which I've written many of my songs just while I'm driving, then I don't get distracted by the guitar, my usual tricks on guitar. Now, it doesn't make for particularly rich chord changes because I'm not looking for something cool on the guitar. In fact, I could care less, honestly. I hear people playing like cool things. Like I love Crowded House, for instance, and
Oh,
Neil
yeah.
Finn plays beautiful acoustic guitar
Master.
parts.
Oh,
but I don't aspire to that necessarily.
That's just not your
I
gauge,
just don't feel like most people care about that. I feel
Doesn't
like
add to the song?
Well, it adds to
Yeah.
the song, but it adds to the song. It adds to the song rather than making the song.
But is there a thing when you so you come up with the title, a hook, and the melody? Does the melody usually suggest a 1-4-5 or a one
well,
minor
not-
1-6-4-5 kind of
yeah,
thing?
or
or do you actually go out of your way to say I'm going to do a bit of a wonky melody and maybe that'll give me a wonky?
No, I've done that for sure.
chord progression,
Yeah, I've done
right?
that for sure. But generally speaking, the melody suggests fairly straight chord progressions.
So your next step is then to write the full lyric. Is that right?
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And does it flow out in a predetermined structure, like
nothing
verse,
flows.
chorus, bridge, or is it just a bunch of words?
Nothing flows, but I would say this. I'm a songwriting teacher, and I think sometimes people, when they hear me talk about songs, they think that I will plan out the structure. Well, I'm going to do an AABA structure this time, and I'm going to have a rhyme scheme that's ABC, ABC, or whatever. I don't
That
ever
would be
plan out
dull.
any of that.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean,
You could
there's a
do it.
million songs that do that.
Yeah.
But I would never plan it out like that. What I do is I write, and hopefully it does flow out of me to some degree. Then I examine what I've done. And then I go back, like for the second verse, I'll try and follow the first verse as a template.
When you're writing, are you writing words down on paper?
Yeah, or
Okay.
in the iPad.
Yeah, the metaphor that I've heard time and time again about this sort of thing when it comes to anything creative is that you can be an architect and plan out the whole thing and then build it, or you can be a gardener where you plant the seeds and let it grow the way it's going to.
That's a good
The
metaphor,
way
yeah.
the song wants to go, and you just
More
sort of
organic.
However,
more organic. yeah.
However, the gardener, of course, sounds way more romantic, and
Yes.
people who are new at songwriting think, "Oh man, I'm going to be a gardener because it
Yeah.
reminds me
Yeah.
of smoking weed or whatever."
Yeah.
Right.
And because it's I'm about to swear, it's easier to do that than to do all the planning first.
Right.
The fact is, if you're going to write really truly great songs and not have them be an accident, right? If you're going to consistently write better songs, at some point you do have to look at the structure. And if you
Yeah.
if you rebel against that, great. Rebel against that. Call me when you got your Grammy, and I will. Hopefully, you'll remember my name. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
the
think
reality
any
is
great
that everyone's
songwriter-
usually somewhere in between the two,
yeah,
right?
exactly. So
at different
but
times.
the romantic notion is that it just flows out of you, man. And
Yeah.
and you're less than honest if you actually work at it. And
And that's
No,
not true
it's
because
absurd.
real artists, a
Yeah.
real artist,
sweat it.
they master their medium, whether
Yeah.
it's paint
Yeah.
or drawing. I mean, if you look at people like Picasso, he was an amazing traditional painter.
Yes, who then
before he went
stepped
into
out.
Cubist. Yeah,
Likewise, Jackson Pollock.
Yeah.
You know, there are artists out there who are renowned for just flinging crap at the canvas,
So-
and
and
yet
the people who are so good,
Yeah.
it makes it seem
Yes.
like
But-
people say, "Oh, I can do Jackson Pollock stuff."
Yeah.
You can't. You try it,
you can,
and it doesn't.
in terms of imitation.
Yeah, but it
by
looks like
luck.
crap.
But do you tell your students learn like I was once told, what the head of a song is, right?
Yeah.
As it was written.
Yeah.
And I was told if you're going to play around with a tune, learn the head. Respect the original writer.
Oh, yeah.
Just learn what it is. So do you tell your students to learn all about structure and lyric and all that, learn as
No.
much as you can, and then go do your own thing?
No,
Or do you let them
tell
just experiment right from the top?
I feel that they're going to learn as they go. The last thing I want to do is quash any of their creative impulses.
Okay.
The last thing I need to do is say to anyone, well, if you're not doing it my way, then you might as well quit.
No, I don't mean your way. I
Right,
mean
but-
in a structured way.
I try and teach them structure as a strategy,
Yeah.
as a tool.
Yeah.
I feel that the people who ignore structure are going to run into problems, even if they're on a lucky streak and they write 10 great ones in a row. They're going to run into a problem at some point, and wouldn't it be great to have something in your back pocket that will allow you, when you're stuck, you'll look at your lyric and you go, oh, wait a second, that songwriting teacher years ago said I should try something like this, and I try it, and maybe it'll get you out of a corner.
Yeah.
And by the same token, if you go the other way and you're a slave to structure,
Yeah.
that gets you in
Yeah.
trouble too.
You can write the most perfectly crafted piece of crap. Honestly,
Yeah.
you really
Yeah.
can.
Do
And
you
then
have
everything
one you
will
could play for us?
A perfectly crafted piece
No,
of crap.
no.
I do actually.
No, I'm just noticing the
Yeah.
time, and I
Yeah.
haven't heard you sing yet. I love hearing you sing.
Oh, well,
So
thanks.
can you do something for us?
Well,
Like from
okay.
one
So
of these
here's
bits?
one. This is not from one of the bits. This is more developed.
Okay,
but
cool.
This is one that I started working on about 5 or 6 years ago, and I decided that I wanted to make it. I made some decisions in advance of starting, and one of them was, those songs by Stan Rogers and people like that. They're
Oh, yeah.
historical songs, and they tell stories about nautical disasters. That's my That was my template. The nautical disaster where, where a ship goes down and every man was drowned, like that. And it's a very serious song. So I wrote this song, but it's not finished, and you'll see why I had to stop writing it.
Sing it.
In deepest dark Etobicoke, there was a family, no strangers they to public life nor to democracy. Robert Ford and brother Doug, they hatched a perfect plan. They cried respect for taxpayers and they stuck it to the man. Now I have a new verse here that I've never sung. Then Robbie was elected mayor, the family plan on track. He served the people one by one, he always called them back. The critics, they went crazy, 'cause he liked to drink and dash. And he liked to smoke his pipe with crack cocaine or Dougie's hash. I've never sung that before, so if there are any lawyers in the audience listening, I don't even know what that was.
Yeah.
Another verse.
Another verse. The trouble started early on, and though he truly tried, Robbie couldn't bring himself to parade with any pride. Some said it was an insult, others just a petty lapse. But Robbie couldn't bring himself to wear those leather buttless chaps. Buttless chaps. Buttless chaps. That's when I asked the audience to sing along. Buttless chaps. Anyway, so
I like it.
I stopped writing.
I like it.
Thank you. I stopped writing
satirical.
that because
Nothing rhymes with
when
buttless
Rob
chaps?
Ford got sick with cancer, it just seemed mean and piling on, and I didn't want to do that. It was meant to be like, even though I wasn't a fan of his, it was meant to be just a sort of cajoling look at him and his,
But you
Now
could put
that
Trump in there
seems-
now. You could put Trump in there and
That's-
it'd be fine.
yeah, that's
Now
true.
that
Million
seems
seller.
pretty developed. I mean, that does not seem like that much of an undeveloped song.
Okay, so the verse about the buttless chaps,
Yeah.
that was verse 2. And the first verse, the introductory verse, that was verse 1. And so it's developed enough that I've played it live a bunch of times, but I played only those 2 verses. I get the audience to sing buttless chaps, and then I say, and that's all I got.
Yeah.
So it isn't finished, and yet the structure's all there. So if I were going to finish it, well, here's another verse. Here, I'll sing it. Doug joined city council, and though he wasn't always there, he managed to stir things up and give some folks a scare. He and Robbie prowled up and down the city hall gallery. They threatened latte drinking types with closing libraries. And but the thing is, you could just go on and on and on and on, and it wouldn't change anybody's mind.
I think it's time for a Justin Trudeau song, maybe.
Well, that's true, but I would focus mostly on his hair.
Oh, okay.
Or
Yeah,
socks.
he's got good hair.
Or his socks, yeah.
From his hair to his socks.
Yeah. Well, no, because
yeah.
it seems like that seems, like again, that seems like a completed song, more or less.
Yeah, but it's not. I mean,
not.
honestly,
Yeah.
it's not, and I would only play those still those 2 first verses because I feel like it's enough
Yeah.
there. So.
Yeah.
But I
so,
get what you mean.
And he's passed away.
Yeah.
That's true. So we won't say anything bad. But one thing we will say something good about is these messages coming up right after this.
For those of you just joining us, you're listening to Song Talk Radio, streamed on songtalk.ca. And tonight our guest is the lovely and talented Blair Packham. He's sharing some songs that never quite finished. Don't forget, we love to hear from you, so tweet in your thoughts to us at Song Talk Radio or send us an email at feedback@songtalk.ca. We'll share your thoughts here on the show. And you can find the links to all the products, books, web services we mention on the show on our resources page at songtalk.ca. You're probably wondering what's coming up on Song Talk Radio on March 25th, a special guest. That means we're not sure yet. And then April the 2nd, Emmanuel Lopez and Trini Lopez. He's coming back. No, Emmanuel Lopez and the Social Media for Musicians show.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Well, that'll be
fun.
interesting. And if you're in the Toronto area, please join us at our next Songwriters Meetup. That's Sunday, March 24th from 1 to 4 at the Transact Club, where there's music all the time. It's free to join and free to attend. Stop by songtalk.ca for the link to Songwriters Meetup. Over to you, Neil, for our definition.
So this week's definition is the definition for discord. 2 definitions. First one, not to be confused with dat chord. And the second definition, the emotional state that usually exists among a group of musicians, especially with regard to those in authority.
Discord, yeah.
And we got a...
I got a little announcement, yeah. So after 5 years on the show, some new projects come up for me, which I'm going to focus on. So I'm going to be moving on from the show. This will be my last show. And I just wanted to thank you all for the time. I've really enjoyed my time on Song Talk Radio. And thanks to Phil and Neil for being good people to work with all these years. And we were constantly surprised each year. We're still working together.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So now I'm not. I'm moving on, but that's fine. I want to thank all the songwriters who have shared their talents, including Blair, have come on and just shared with us just like us, for no pay. It's all volunteer, and it's all to help the songwriters out there
Wait a second.
because we care.
I
Check
gotta
your
tell you
contract. Was written on toilet paper. Thanks to Michael Newton, our technical director as well, very helpful to us along the way, and thanks to all the volunteers who helped out. In particular, Vanessa, Mike, and Linda, our current volunteers. And thank you to all the Song Talk Radio listeners over the years. Remember, I'm going to be listening too. So thank you. Back to you.
Yay, we got
Now,
one
I
more
also
listener.
assume you're going to be coming back for special shows, right?
Yeah, you got to
I'll be a guest when my new album comes out.
You'll be invited.
I might consider it. Yeah.
So one thing before we go on, we have some CDs to give away.
remember
Three
those.
of three of Blair's fantastic ones. Unpopular Pop, which is the latest one.
Latest one.
That's correct.
Which is a monster
fantastic
of one.
album.
Is this part of your purging?
Everything That's Good, which I think has one of my favorite songs. Which one is the one that has does the water belong to the shore?
Oh, that's I Don't Know. It's the last
I Don't
song
Know.
on that album. Yeah.
Friggin' one of my favorite songs.
thank
And Could Have Been King, which is also quite good.
Yeah.
So if you send us tonight, we'll give away one, and we'll give away two on the podcast. So if you're listening to us now, send us an email or a tweet, and we'll give you one of them. And then send us or a tweet after the show is posted on the song on the podcast, and we will award those ones too. So we just had listener email, which we always love to read, by Stuart. Stuart Cook, who's a longtime friend of the show.
Hey, Stuart.
Hi, had a fantastic night this week at Manchester's premier concert venue, the Bridgewater Hall, at a Lorena McKenna concert. Waited nearly 30 years for the privilege. She's just starting a huge European tour of major concert halls. To many in Europe, she's the Canadian songwriter. I don't think I've ever heard a reference to her on your show.
Now you have.
Yeah, which I thought was interesting. I've
Remember that name from?
well, yeah, because I like she was huge in Canada in the 90s.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And she
And-
was an independent artist at a time, but like prior to
Yeah,
independent artists.
Stratford, Ontario, right?
Yes.
yeah.
Is she the one that used to come to the St. Lawrence Market at 6 a.m. and sing for
wow.
nickels and dimes? Yeah.
And then
Released a tape.
and then records after that. She made
was
out like a
huge.
bandit, let's say.
Yeah.
She did very well.
She was on the
And
radio.
it's interesting. There's a lot of these artists that we don't think of anymore because to us, we're thinking of all like the Shawn Mendes's and all the
Yeah.
But there's lots of people who are established artists who have huge careers still in Europe.
Well, it's funny you should mention that because I would like to announce this. You mentioned all the various things that I do before, and I do a lot of things to make a living. Diversify, kids. That's my advice to you. But I've become one of the music programmers at Hughes Drum in Toronto. So
right.
I'm booking Hughes Drum. If you want to come and play Hughes Drum, just don't call me.
Who do they call?
Send you an email?
Keep practicing. No, no. What I wanted to say though was, I'm semi joking, but the thing is, Hughes Room's a big room, and you got to sell 100 tickets at $25 a ticket, and it's quite challenging for new people.
Yeah.
But because we've been booking legacy artists, the kind of artists that you're talking about, people who have made a big splash, but their careers aren't exactly on fire at this point, but they can still draw an audience of people who just love their music. Hughes Room has been a great venue for that.
So who are you bringing in?
Well, I think it got postponed, but we had Melanie coming in who sang was at Woodstock. And we had Janice Ian last year who sang at 17. Rhoda sang at 17,
wonderful.
among others. Yeah. Rick Emmett did his farewell show there. Rick Emmett from Triumph. And I'm talking to a bunch of different people who are what we consider legacy artists, but who draw like crazy,
That'd
and
be
have
great.
devoted fans, and who still are playing and singing.
Would Steve
really
Page
well.
come for that kind of gig, or you want something bigger?
He would play. I mean, he last played the Danforth Music Hall and sold out. So
Yeah.
I would think that we'll
Yeah.
get Steve Page maybe if there's a lull in his career.
Yeah, I mean, 100 people is for Stephen Page.
It's
You could
pretty
do maybe
easy.
a you could do a VIP event where.
Well, in fact, we're
something.
doing some of those. Yeah, we're doing where the ticket price is really high, where people were really devoted fans. I mean, we're talking about right now. And I won't announce who it is, but I will hint. We're talking with somebody who is a very well-known Canadian bass player in a Canadian rock band, and has a book out about bass. But I won't say any more than that. But except to say that we're just exploring the idea of doing a live on-stage interview, not a show, not a nothing like would be talk. And a musician named Mike Daly has been doing talks where he analyzes a particular artist or a particular song, and he's been selling out at Hughes
cool.
Drum. The capacity there is 230, and at a $25 ticket, he's been getting full house to hear.
Oh,
He
nice.
talked about Leonard Cohen and Hallelujah, for instance, one night. Tickets sold faster than any other show Hughes Drum has ever had.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Mike
Guy
Daly.
to guy to talk about the song.
But he plays bits of it, and he
plays,
talks
oh.
about how the things work together.
Oh.
He's a really
This
fantastic
is not a performance
musician.
in the traditional
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
podcast, How We Recorded This. What's that one called? Ricky Kesha. Ricky.
Song Exploder.
Yeah,
Song
Exploder.
Exploder, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like it's like
It's
that
like
live.
that.
Yeah.
You go deep
yeah.
into a song.
Yeah.
Right.
Like our show.
Yeah.
So let's get into the bits.
Okay.
So you
Well,
guys
a bit.
before we do that, I have
Yeah.
a question about the song you just played before the
Okay.
break. And does it have a title yet or no?
The Ballad of the Brothers Ford.
The Ballad of the Brothers Ford. So
Yeah.
so you came up with the title first?
No, in this case, no.
No.
In this case, I came up with the idea of it being a nautical disaster song, except it would be about local politician. And then I thought I knew it would be about the Ford brothers.
Right.
And then I thought the opening line, "In deepest dark Etobicoke," I thought that sang pretty
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
And then I thought I would just go from there.
And go from there. But
Yeah.
so then when it came to the structure of the song, you thought since it's a nautical disaster song, a la Stan
It would
Rogers,
have a pretty-
it's going to be like verse, verse, verse.
Yeah.
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 Like in terms of
with
in
no
terms of, with
chorus or
no
anything like
chorus
that.
per
Yeah,
se.
yeah.
So that's what you were saying before about you don't want to be a slave to structure, but
Yeah.
you want the content of the song to inform
Match.
what the
Yes.
structure might
Yes,
be.
exactly.
Well, and it's also it's a style of song. That song
Yeah.
is a bit of a template
parody.
for
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of
It's a parody.
approach.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which is fine.
Do you have a bit for us?
Well, yeah. Let's see if I have a bit. I have a song that's in
You could just
progress.
you could just spin a wheel and
Yeah,
come up
that's
for the bit. Okay.
Can I, instead of doing a bit, can I do? I've got more of a song here, but I can tell you this. I started writing this song in California. My first trip there in about 1998, and have been unable to finish it yet. And I've been working on it, and I brought in a co-writer, and it's been really challenging.
All right,
So-
we got 15 minutes. Let's
Yeah.
do it.
Maybe we can help you.
Well, we got messed up in Anaheim, so we headed up 101, trying to get to Oakland by the setting of the sun. But the sunlight fades quite early, California winter days. So we pulled up short in Bakersfield to hear Buck Owens play. Our lives were trashed by morning, careening off the rails. But as she ranted, all I could hear was Tiger by the tail. I've got the world on a string. It's so good now to be free. I've got the world in the palm of my hand. I was a prisoner of my own making. Now I'm free at last. I've got the world on a string. There.
Yeah.
Nice.
There's a song.
Thank you. Now I've got other verses, but I'm not happy with the other verses. And here's the thing. Here's a real life thing. I got the world on a string. It was a noose around my neck. And I wasn't really sure even what that meant, but of course it suggests suicide and so forth. And last year I suffered a suicide in my close group of loved ones. And I really felt I can't finish this song with a reference to suicide in it. It had nothing to do with her.
Yeah.
But
still.
it like people will make that connection, or if they don't, it just seems callous and inappropriate. And the song's not about that. It was just using it as an image. You know, the way people will say, "Oh man, I might as well kill myself," and they don't mean that. They're just saying it as an illustration. So I felt like I could lose that. But then that really caused yet another brick wall for me to hit, where I felt like, okay, what do I do now? You know.
Were you concerned about the song called "I Got the World on a String"?
No, I actually wasn't. I only found out about it later.
Yeah, because most people don't know that song. It was
Yeah.
pretty big for Sinatra and a few other people,
Yeah,
right?
okay.
But I really like it. I love the specific references to California.
Oh, thanks.
And I love that something weird happened that one night that you stopped in Bakersfield. I guess between the man and woman there was a big off the rails. It sounded like it was a huge blow up or something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we go into that in verse 2.
Yeah.
I have a suggestion. You know,
I like
because
it.
sometimes when you get blocked, I think it's because you're looking at things the same way,
Yeah.
and you have to push yourself. So our brains. Actually, if you read the talent code, our brains, if you do the same thing all the time,
Yeah.
you build up like little highways,
Pathways,
pathways
Neural.
that make things easier. That's why that's what practice does.
Yeah.
Is eventually then you're not thinking about that because those pathways are so ingrained. And I think when we come together with a song, especially when you've played it for a long time, you're in that groove.
Yep.
And the problem is you need to get out of that groove. So you're doing this, it's all about I.
Yeah.
If you change that to she or her,
Yes.
that'll give you a different dimension
Yes.
of the song. And then you can actually relate at the end of the song about this person, like, she had the, she had the
Come on, Phil.
She had
Counting on you.
she had the world on her string,
Yeah.
and
That's
now she
interesting,
doesn't,
actually,
and
lost
Yeah.
but now she's back with me or something, and it kind of gives you some place to go,
Right. Right.
because you do a lot of I songs,
I do. Yeah.
and that's great, but I think sometimes like putting it off to someone else can actually can ramp up the emotional resonance.
I agree, and I think that one
try.
of my principles
Good idea.
in writing, when I find it, I'm writing a lot, is I try to contrast with whatever I wrote last. So, so if that was the last one, it's a big G chord song, then I would write a slow or super fast song in a completely different key, probably a minor key, like just to contrast, with what I did before. So in fact, doing that is a really good idea, particularly if you've noticed that I write a lot of I songs.
Yeah.
Although I do tend to find as a listener, when I hear people's songs that are I rather than describing a third party, I find they touch me more immediately, depending. But
Yeah.
The other thing to do would be change up the key, change up the instrument.
Yeah.
Go to piano instead of guitar,
Yep.
or give it to another person who plays piano, or maybe a drummer, and say, "Give me a groove for this that's totally different than what I'm doing." But I took creative writing years ago from this guy, and he left me with one indelible thing, which was he said, "If you're going to," it was the era of the fires in Detroit, 1968,
Sure.
right around that era, and he said, "If you're going to go and write about the fires in Detroit, don't go over to Detroit and stand in the middle of the fire. You'll have no way of having any perspective.
Right.
Watch it from Windsor." And that's how he suggests we
That's
write with
interesting.
with this window between us. We can see everything, but we're not affected. We're kind of neutral and we're observers. But he also said many times in my writing, he said, "Try that in third person." Oh my God! Like I'd be writing about, almost like a diary. But then I put it in third person. It became literature.
Right,
Somehow
right.
it did what you're saying.
yeah.
And he walked into the room and suddenly he felt. But now it's a character.
Yeah,
And I have some
Or actually, what's
separation
really
from it.
interesting is, which people don't usually do, is I think it's called second person, where it's you.
Yeah.
They don't do that. There's
all
one
you,
Bright
yeah.
Lights Big City, I think. It's all in second person, which is you walk into the bar and he says you
Yeah.
that, and it's
Right, and
Or
it's,
you, baby, you, no one but you, baby, nobody but you.
But
That's
it's-
a you song.
But you mean as the sort of the generalized you, right? Like you know,
Yeah.
Or
so
person.
so
Could be
you
a
walk into
specific
the bar
person.
and then you
Yeah.
he's sort of using that as an example of what someone might do.
do, yeah.
You're not going to
Yeah.
say in that kind of writing. You're not going to say one walks into a bar.
Oh.
no.
Yeah.
But you can
So-
also do a
yeah.
you song about a person.
You could if
Yeah.
you're more
You,
so.
Yeah.
you did this, you
Yeah.
did this, you did this,
Yeah.
and finally I left.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Do
then-
you want me back again? Well,
Right.
let's see how
Yeah.
that
But
might work.
that ends up being a direct relationship because there's you and an I.
But
Yeah,
okay, so
true.
what do you
Opposed to
do?
you.
No.
Like the example that you gave, Bruce, about changing it to third person and then stepping back and it becomes literature, I think is great and very pertinent. But we live in a world, and I've observed this with my students, what I would say is the post-Beatles world, whether they know it or not, where we believe, it's really the post-singer-songwriter era world, where we believe that the person who's written the song is writing about themselves, and it's autobiographical. And so most people, like when a singer is singing about their pain and the relationship or whatever, you think, oh, that poor Alessia Cara, she's
But it's
sore.
not.
Well, no,
It's
of
not.
course, especially because the songs might be written by 10 people. But the point is the audience goes there naturally. Like when I play a song for people in my class, and it's a song that I know was written about like Martha My Dear by the Beatles. Not that I play that song, but let's say I did. I would say, what's that about? And they say it's about a woman named Martha. Well, it's not. It's about a sheepdog named Martha.
Right.
But people will want to assume that it's a real thing and it's a real relationship and it's a real this and a real that. That's just the assumption they make. So if you make it a third person kind of story, that may make it literature, but does it make it what the audience wants?
Well, I
in
would
terms
argue
of-
that the first-person narrative will be the more emotional.
Yeah.
So the audience believes that Alicia Cara is feeling that right now, reenacting something she actually experienced, and then they will cry. Like it'll draw you in emotionally,
Yeah.
right? Because if you had, she's singing about, well, she was so sad, and the boy left her, and then, but it's really, we'd rather hear it was her because then we want to connect to the emotion directly.
Yeah.
But if you're telling a story song,
Yeah.
right, about someone driving up to California,
Right.
it could be, Fred. Well, Fred got in his
Yep.
something convertible and headed out on 101,
Certainly
Highway
back
1,
in the
right?
70s. I mean,
could
there
try it.
was lots of third-person songs, like Jackie
Yeah,
Blue.
yeah.
I'm thinking
Run
Yeah,
on
no,
empty.
that's true. That's true.
I want to share something that is something I went through many years ago as a teenager in high school, and I was going through a creative writing exercise where I was actually writing like a fantasy novel, a la J.R.R. Tolkien type of thing, right? And I went through this exercise where actually just to make sure I was on the right track, I tried spinning it so that instead of being a novel narrative, it was like a screenplay.
Oh,
Right,
cool.
or actually turn it into like a stage play or a thing like that, right? And I realized that if I changed the point of view like that, what I was missing was like the internal conversations of the characters within their own heads,
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
and that completely, and then that gave me the focus to go back to that and actually really focus on the internal conversations
Right.
within the
Right,
characters' heads.
'cause you realized what was missing.
So sometimes you spin something a different way, and you realize what you really should be focusing on,
And then you go back
and then
to
you go
it.
back and
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and find the right
Well,
direction.
I think
there.
the lesson is you get out of a rut by trying something completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shock yourself out of the rut.
Absolutely. Get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
I
Do you
try that with
Do you write
students.
on piano at all?
Sometimes, yeah. But mostly I write without an instrument at all. As I said. So, and sometimes I write. So I will sometimes write a track, like a bed track, a cool groove, using sounds on a new virtual instrument that I bought or something like that. And I will, I'll just be messing around, and then I'll think, oh, wait, that could be a song. And then I start singing a melody, and then I start writing words. So that is the way that I said I didn't do it generally, but
Right.
those are exceptions.
Yeah.
I do those.
Right.
Sometimes they're good songs. On that first album that you said you liked, my album Everything That's Good, there's a song called Paris is Burning, and I bought a new guitar pedal. I liked the sound that it made. I recorded it without a tempo or anything into a tape recorder, and then thought, oh, that's cool. I sort of played a chord progression, and then I added by hand a drum machine to it, and then it ended up then I wrote a melody, and I wrote these words that I don't even know what they mean exactly. I thought that maybe they were about me cross-dressing, except that I don't. So,
Well,
so
that's
What if you did?
I don't. Then I thought, well, it's
if you
because I
want to.
chose the phrase. I just sang. It just came out. Paris is burning. There's a documentary at the time about transvestite people
Black.
in New York City who and it was a great documentary. And then I thought, am I referencing that, or am I actually referencing the World War II reference? Is Paris burning? So and I didn't know, and I still don't know. So sometimes
But
songs are a
But
complete
there's a
mystery.
lesson right there. You don't.
Yeah.
The writer doesn't have to have it all
No.
figured out.
No.
But I have to have it figured out enough for, even if in that case I think, no, I think that's good. I don't need to know what this is about. But sometimes, like if you and I were co-writing and you say, who cares? I'd be like, well, I care.
Yeah.
Even if the audience doesn't care, I still need to know.
Yeah.
And again, not always, but sometimes.
Yeah.
So I'm a really bad co-writer in the sense that people ask me to co-write, and it's the slowest process in the world. And I'm an unreliable correspondent, and I'll eventually start ducking your phone calls and your emails. I will.
Okay.
Fair warning.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
So that's why
Yeah.
when people ask me to co-write, I generally say no. It's not because
Yeah.
I think I'm better than them. It's that I know I'm going to let them down.
That's actually good to know.
Yeah.
That's
Will
good
you
to know
take
for sure.
over the song yourself?
No, I will go and write another song of my own. So, no, I mean, it depends, I guess. And if I'm really excited by the song, but I don't know. That's a good question. Generally,
well,
no.
Yeah, well, not everyone. I mean, some people are total solo people. And they don't want to. Not that they don't want. That's just not their strength.
Well, I honestly feel I'm letting people down all the time when I co-write. And so my favorite way to co-write is with Craig Northey from The Odds, my favorite Canadian band. And I will send him some music or a half-finished lyric, and he will just send something back. And we never talk about it, and and if I send him a recording, he'll record his version of the vocal, and he'll do a guitar solo as well, and then send it back. So I end up, on my records, there's Craig Northey all over them because it's great, and we don't have to sit and sort of look at each other in the eye and go, "Oh God, what?"
Is that sort of thing a co-write, or is it just kind of throw me a solo on this thing?
No,
Like-
the solo is not a co-write. Yeah, no. But but if he writes a verse or a chorus or any part of the lyric, that's
Oh,
a
I see.
co-write.
He's-
Yeah.
he's- okay,
Remember
he's got his own
Janice?
version
Remember
of the-
Janice did that? One of our volunteers with a guy in
Yeah.
Germany, and it turned out to be a really good song.
Yeah, because that's the other way people sometimes work. Is
distance.
I'll do the music bed and you handle the top line.
Right.
Right.
Now, according to the law, Neil,
Yeah.
the top line is the song.
Yeah.
The music bed isn't the song. I can play you I can play you.
Yes.
And that's a million songs.
Yes, of course.
That's not the song. Now today it's starting to turn into that being songwriting, but actually according to the law, when it comes to copyright, you need to have come up with an original idea. Those chords aren't original. It's demonstrable that they're in hundreds of songs. So, but if I come up with a phrase that I really like and a melody that goes with it, it's arguably original. So according to the law, I'm not saying that's the way people really do it nowadays.
Yeah.
But because in the post hip hop world, people do tracks and then somebody else top lines. I kind of resent the term top line because it's writing the whole song. The lyric and the melody.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting question. It's certainly a different way of
You should talk to
of
Shelley
handling it.
about that.
How about another unfinished song?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Another bit.
this one is more finished again, but I don't know what to do with it. So this is a third-person song.
What's it called?
It's called Loose Ends and Spare Change. I think it's in this key. No. Late one April, Northampton, Massachusetts, down by the railway bridge. Davy looked away, trying to hide. He was nervous as the Leopard Man made his pitch. See, Leopard knew the girlfriend of a man at the university, whose wife had a few bad habits that could blow them both out of the Ivy League. That's it. The Leopard's real name was Leonard Capriati, but he hardly ever answered to that. He was called Leopard on account of his complexion in school in Hackensack. Leopard Man met Davy selling weed to kids at the Hadley Mall. The local talent claimed today they knew David would take the fall. Loose ends. Loose ends and spare change. Empty out your pockets, fingerprints and sign your name. You're nothing but loose ends and spare change. The key is too high. I haven't played it in years. I see the lyrics go on and I think, oh, those are good. But then I'm rushing words and stuff. Like, to me, this song is nowhere near finished.
Yeah.
Plus, it has the added burden of sounding like a Bob Dylan outtake. And,
Now, I didn't
that's
get
a bad guy to connect to.
Now,
to
I did
imitate,
not
you
get
know.
that.
You didn't get that? Okay,
No,
well,
I did
that's
not.
good.
And I would get it
No?
because I think Bob Dylan. I know a lot of people poo him, but he's a fantastic master songwriter.
Oh, my God, yeah.
yeah, it's like
No, I thought this was an interesting kind of underworld, seedy side of life characters, like you might in an Elmore
Yeah.
Leonard novel or something,
That
right?
was part of the inspiration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Part of the inspiration was being in Northampton, Massachusetts, writing songs with Jules Shear, the great American songwriter, and seeing this railway bridge. And it's a college town with Smith College and a few other colleges there, an Ivy League town. But you'd see all these characters who were
Shady.
exactly, all over the place.
Yeah.
And notably, at the hotel that I was staying at, the Autumn Inn, there was the guy behind the desk had no thumbs. Like his hands had no thumbs.
Oh,
and I always
dear.
wondered what the story was behind that, but I didn't put it in the song.
No.
So-
I don't know
Something
all of
from
your
us.
songs, Blair, but I noticed that when you do third-person songs, you usually drop it like it's a specific character, like
Right.
with a name. It's not
Yeah.
it's not just he or she, a generic he or she. It's always a specific character.
I know we got to go, but I want to say this: naming stuff is really important.
Yeah.
Like if you do an event at a place and you name it and you say it's the such and such cabaret, I swear you'll have an easier time promoting it and more people will come.
That's why we call this the Blair Packham Show.
Exactly.
And we've got
That's why there's so many
thousands
people here
listening.
waiting to
Yeah.
meet me.
Oh, they're
It's
down at the door
amazing.
outside.
Yeah.
Hashtag Blair Packham.
That's right.
There's the band.
I think so. That means that it's all the time we have tonight on Song Talk Radio. Special thanks to our guest, Blair Packham. Yay!
Thank you.
Also, off as always.
Got to come back real soon, as you always, because you're always.
As you always do.
As you
He won't stay
always
away.
liable.
Whether we like it or not.
Why don't you send us your impressions via Twitter at Song Talk Radio? Send us an email at feedback@songtalk.ca. Why don't you visit us on Facebook and YouTube at Song Talk Radio, or stop by the site at songtalk.ca. Subscribe today to the Song Talk Radio podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google's Play, Stitcher.com, and Spotify, and one other place too. Anyways, we're everywhere. Don't forget to sign up for the free newsletter at the website as well. You can find all the links to all the products, books, and web services we mentioned here on Song Talk Radio, especially the ones we did tonight, on the resources page at songtalk.ca. And if you happen to be in the Toronto area, why don't you stop by the next Songwriters Meetup, Sunday, March 24th from 1 to 4 p.m. at the Transact Club. That's true, this weekend. Free to join at meetup.com, free to attend the meetup. Stop by songtalk.ca for a link to the Songwriters Meetup. It's at Bloor and Brunswick. Thanks to Vanessa Vreeland for doing all the social media stuff. And on the tech board, Thingamawatsu, Linda. Thank you, Linda. Working so hard.
No problem.
And most of all, we'd like to thank you, the home listener. You can follow Bruce at,
BruceHarrett.com.
you can follow Neil at.
NeilModi.com.
How do we get more of your stuff?
BlairPackham.com is one way.
One way, and you need
best
social
way?
media links on your website, by the way.
I do?
Yeah, because
thank you.
couldn't find
He'll look
it.
after you.
Okay.
And Vanessa.
Sunny_Vanessa.
Yeah, it's always a great
Two
one.
S's.
And you can follow me at VPhilEmery on Twitter, and I do tweet once in a
What
while.
about Linda?
And Linda.
I am Linda Lavender on Instagram, among other sites.
Ooh, very exciting. Why don't you stop by the website, songtalk.ca, to browse past shows and find out how you can be a guest. Thanks for listening. We'll see you again next week. Good night, everyone.
Keep on writing.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Bye.